This is the story of Joseph Sambo Cromwell, a Black Loyalist, whose journey spanned continents and crossed unimaginable barriers. From his birthplace in West Africa to the plantations of South Carolina, his daring escape to freedom, and his resettlement in Nova Scotia, we follow the path of a man who refused to let his spirit be broken. This story is reconstructed using maps, period drawings, and historical records, including his actual entry in the Book of Negroes, a testament to his struggle and resilience. Our story begins around 1739 in Ghana, West Africa. Here, the Ashanti, Fonte, and the Ga peoples lived in close-knit communities built on traditions, family ties, and thriving markets. That Joseph, like other young boys, would have been immersed in the customs and skills of his people. He learned to farm, hunt, and perhaps even prepare for leadership within his community. By the mid-18th century, however, the transatlantic slave trade cast a dark shadow over this region. European traders, in collaboration with local intermediaries, captured and sold countless people, including Joseph. Around the age 15, his life was forever changed when he was forcibly taken from his community. Bound for the infamous Cape Coast Castle, a primary holding point for captured Africans awaiting the journey across the Atlantic. In the dark, suffocating dungeons of Cape Coast Castle, Joseph and hundreds of others awaited an uncertain fate. Shackled together, they could barely breathe, let alone see daylight. After days or even weeks, they were loaded onto slave ships, packed tightly as cargo. This perilous journey across the Atlantic, known as the Middle Passage, subjected captives to disease, starvation, and unimaginable suffering. Joseph arrived in Charleston and was sold at auction to a plantation owner in Goose Creek, South Carolina. He joined countless other enslaved Africans who worked tirelessly to cultivate rice and indigo in the sweltering heat. South Carolina's economy relied on the labor of enslaved people, and Joseph's days were spent in grueling work with little rest. With the American Revolutionary War in full swing, the British offered freedom to enslaved people who joined their ranks. In 1779, Joseph seized this chance, escaping with his wife Phyllis and their children. They traveled by night, hiding during the day, eventually reaching British-held New York, where they were granted freedom. In New York, Joseph and his family were recorded in the Book of Negroes, a historic document that granted freedom and passage to Black Loyalists. Joseph was described as an ordinary fellow of 44 years, with his wife Phyllis and their children. This document, a powerful testament to his journey, offered them passage to Nova Scotia. In 1783, Joseph and his family boarded the ship Joseph bound for Nova Scotia. However, their journey was delayed by storms, which forced the ship to reroute to Bermuda, where they were stranded for several months. Finally, in April 1784, they arrived in Annapolis Royal, Nova Scotia, hoping for a new beginning. In Nova Scotia, Joseph and his family faced harsh conditions and discrimination. White Loyalists received better land and resources, while Black Loyalists like Joseph were given rocky, barren land that was difficult to farm. Despite these challenges, Joseph and his family persevered, relying on fishing, hunting, and building a close-knit community. Joseph Sambo Cromwell likely died in the late 1820s, leaving a legacy of resilience and survival. His descendants, now part of Canada's African heritage, contributed to communities across Ontario and Nova Scotia. Joseph's life reflects the strength and determination of a man who fought for freedom and created a legacy of hope.